Learning the Hebrew alphabet is one of the best ways to start getting engaged with excellent resources for understanding the writings inside of the Hebrew Bible. But where do you start? Maybe you learned the alphabet a long time ago and you've kind of forgotten it, or maybe you've always wanted to, but just haven't done it yet. Well, I want to introduce you to the perfect person who can help you, Netanel Barak. He's an Israeli biblical Hebrew teacher. He has a lot of energy, great passion, cares about people, real expertise, and he is a resource for you that he would love to introduce you to. So everyone check out this interview with Netanel Barak. Netanel Barak, I'm so happy to have you on the show. We've already been having a great conversation with some fun facts before we started recording. That's been great about my name, and so we're gonna have a great conversation today. Thanks for coming on.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
So first thing is, let's say someone's not familiar with you and your content. Can you give a little introduction to yourself?
Sure. I don't know about little, but let's start. So as you said, my name is Netanel Barak. I was born and raised here in Israel. I live in Israel. A husband and a father of 6.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
a lot of kids.
Yeah, I come from a family of 10 kids, but having 6 of our own, is crazy. Yeah, it's a lot of work. I'm also major in the Israeli reserves and a Bible collector, but mainly a professor of biblical languages. As you know, this is how we met,
Yep.
So that's what I do. I teach mainly Hebrew, but also Aramaic. And I've been doing it for the last 15 years in different kind of institutions, academic institutions, religious institutions. And that's basically what brings me to this conversation.
Yes, which is so exciting. My listeners are going to love getting to talk with you, getting to hear this conversation about someone who's devoted much of their life to teaching biblical languages, and from an Israeli. This is really fun for me. I don't know if you knew this, by the way. I actually started with modern Hebrew before biblical Hebrew. In fact, I knew nothing about Israel. I knew nothing about the Hebrew Bible. I was just avoiding Spanish. And in college, I did not want to do Spanish, and I saw modern Hebrew. I said, you know what? That sounds like not Spanish, so I'll do it. And ended up loving it.
That's crazy. To go Hebrew instead of not going, for the purpose of not going Spanish. Spanish is so easy. So you chose the road not taken, right? Less traveled.
I did, and it was great. But I didn't even know that I didn't even know about original languages of the Bible, how I grew up. We weren't taught about that stuff. I just thought, oh, cool. English, reading, Bible, wonderful. Then when I learned that, the Hebrew Bible, of course, is written in Hebrew, ancient Hebrew, that's pretty similar to modern, started doing that. And I just so happened to have a modern Hebrew teacher who also studied and teaches biblical Hebrew. We had a great time. So anyway, this will be really fun, us getting to chat. I would love to hear, obviously you're an Israeli, so you grew up speaking Hebrew, but as I know from my Israeli friends, not everybody who's an Israeli actually gets into biblical Hebrew in the same way. I imagine maybe some Americans, we don't learn Old English. So how did you get passionate about biblical languages like Hebrew and Aramaic? When did it hit you? I want to devote some of my life to this and teach this.
Right. So I think there are a few points here in the question. First of all, the comparison between modern English and Old English. Actually, Biblical Hebrew and modern Hebrew are much closer than Old English and English. But that's like for the scholarly discussion. Right. On a personal level, I think that in some aspects, I was brought up to be what I'm doing and to do what I'm doing and to be who I am and to have this mission. In a very, very young age, I would sit next to my father in the synagogue every Shabbat and the weekdays also, but every Shabbat listening to the traditional reading of the Torah and the prophets in the synagogue. Every Shabbat, my father, we, as I said, I come from a family of 10 kids. And in order to make sure everybody behaved, my father had to have us next to him, not moving anywhere, not going anywhere. The other kids would go out, when the reading of the Torah was done, it takes a lot of time. They would go out and play. There was a playground outside the synagogue and everything. No, we had to sit like next to my father. And this is how basically I know the Torah practically by heart, the 5 books of Moses and extensive parts of the Bible in general. And so it really prepared me to what I'm doing. Not that it was intended for me to do that. When I was a bar mitzvah, at the age of 13, when Jewish boys become officially part of the bar mitzvah, is literally from Aramaic, a son of the commandment, but contextually meaning relevant for the commandments, that is of age according to Jewish law. I started laning. Laning is the verb that Jews use to describe the traditional reading of the Torah in the synagogue. So I would start to regularly lane. And to this very day, in my own synagogue, I am the one who is reading the Torah in the traditional way with the te'amim, the cantillation notes, and you're reading from a manuscript, basically, from a scroll that doesn't have the vowels, the vowel pointings. Again, I don't know your audiences, but there is a big difference. Yeah. So you really have to know the text almost by heart in order to be able to do it, because you don't have the vowel pointing and you don't have the cantillation notes.
That's really difficult. I never thought about that as a cantor, that not only are you not seeing vowels, but you don't have the other te'amim for knowing how to sing, how to chant.
The te'amim are used both for syntactical purposes as well as for melodical purposes, and you have to basically know the text, because there is a scroll, and the scroll doesn't have anything except for the letters.
Wow.
And so sometimes, the spelling is deficient even. So you don't even have all of the vowel letters, so to speak.
Yep. Wow. So you spend a lot of time in the scriptures reading, and to know how to read without vowel points as well as without the notes for how to do the canting.
Right. But I don't want to, we have like tricks, when you do it a long time, you start seeing patterns, right? So you get used to it. The fact that I teach Biblical Hebrew also helps. I'm invested. I'm a professional, so it's not fair.
Sure. But speaking of teaching, by the way, one thing that caught my eye about you, I remember getting to sit in one of your sessions where you are teaching Biblical Hebrew, is you're a very engaging teacher. And not trying to throw shade anywhere, but there are some people, their expertise is research. So they know languages really well, and they engage with texts and journal articles and everything. And they're really good at a lot of things, but they just don't have the gift for engaging people. And they might even prefer research over teaching. But for you, right, you have this energy and you love connecting with people, bringing it to life.
Right. Thank you very much.
So where did you get your joy, not for the languages, but for teaching and wanting to do this?
Right. First of all, the joy is like a blessing from God. Really, yeah. I cannot thank God too much for giving me this constant smile. I was badgered. I told you I'm a major in the reserves. When I was in boot camp, the sergeant said to me, "Why are you constantly smiling? Why are you smiling?" I said to him, "Listen, that's how I am. If I'm not smiling, you should ask, So that's a given for me. And I thank God for this gift. But yes, I believe that engaging makes the connection and the teaching more meaningful. I have students that have been with me for more than 10 years, and they keep staying with me because of that personal connection and the fact that, thank God, I can also contribute still to their knowledge. And so I'm trying to get it, together, because really 55 minutes or an hour of grammar, hammering it in the heads of people is not necessarily the best experience that one may have. So we're doing it in an engaging and entertaining way sometimes even. So that's and I should thank God and thank my parents, for the genes.
Yes.
Right. That's it. I always knew that I want to do something with people. I was debating with myself, should I learn medicine, which my mother is a doctor.
Cool.
Both my parents were not born in Israel. My mother was born in England, and my father was born in the Czech Republic. And my mother was a doctor. She is an amazing person. And I knew, that connecting with people is part of my essence, my being, my the way I go. And so I'm thankful that I get to marry these passions of interacting with people and scriptures and languages and all of these things that I like doing. I get an opportunity to do. That's a true blessing.
You know what comes to my mind as we're talking? Correct me if I say this wrong. If I'm remembering right, Simchat Torah, the holiday for like the receiving of the Torah,
right?
But literally the
not
rejoicing.
The receiving of the Torah. Simchat Torah is if we get it into the history of it, is a fairly recent. That is to say, it's not biblical. Okay. Right. It is related to the cycle of reading the Torah. I told you that I'm laning in my synagogue. I read the Torah publicly. We all read, every synagogue we read. And this cycle of reading, you finish the Torah every year. This is actually a Babylonian tradition, a Jewish Babylonian tradition, as opposed to the people who were in Israel at the same time, who would only finish the reading of the Torah every 3.5 years. So not many people are aware of that. Yeah. But this cycle that you finish every year, when you finish it and you finish the book of Deuteronomy and you restart the book of Genesis, we celebrate it all together, and that's called Simchat Torah, rejoicing in the Torah.
That's really cool. And the reason I bring it up is I feel like I think you embody this idea of Simchat Torah, right? With the joy and the Torah.
You should come for Simchat Torah in our synagogue. A lot of energies, but I'm always so hoarse after it. It's hard for me to teach after because we sing, we enjoy it so much.
While we're on the topic, I want to ask, what's your favorite of the holidays, and what do you enjoy getting to do?
Wow, all of these what's your favorite questions.
I know, they're so hard, right?
Super hard. Fair. No, really, I love all of them. I was born on the month of Adar, so Purim comes to mind, especially then because Purim is also associated with a lot of fun and even a little bit mischievous fun, Purim. So yeah, Purim.
So maybe if someone doesn't know what Purim is, could you maybe just give us a little picture? And I bet your kids love Purim too.
Right. First of all, I should pronounce it Purim because that's the biblical pronunciation, though everybody would pronounce it Purim in Israel, right? Yeah. But Purim is the celebration of the joke about Jewish holidays is that they all celebrate the fact that they tried to kill us, they didn't manage. Okay, so it only changes, in which period, what were the circumstances. So Passover, they wanted to kill us, they didn't manage, in Egypt. Hanukkah, they wanted to kill us. So it's not accurate, but I'm, leaving accuracy aside for a moment. The Greeks, not the Greeks, actually the Seleucids, which were Syrians. But anyway, they tried to kill us, they didn't manage. So this is the one about the book of Esther, where Xerxes, again, a little bit of debate in scholarship, which Xerxes, Artaxerxes, Xerxes the first, never mind, they wanted to kill us. Achashverosh, Haman, his advisor, wanted to kill all the Jews, and he had a lot. That lot is Pur, and the day on which he planned for all the Jews to be killed, the days of the Purim, the days of the lot, literally, turned into the day in which the Jews were allowed to defend themselves. And so from a doomsday, it turned into a day of happiness for the Jews to have defended themselves and were able to rest from having to fight for themselves. So really, we celebrate the rest, not the war, but the day of rest that came at the end of the war. People sometimes forget that.
That's great. That's wonderful. Yeah. So many great holidays. And for anyone who hasn't gone to go to Israel yet, it'd be great to be there around some of those holidays.
Sure. And Purim is a little bit like Halloween as far as the
Yep.
costumes and everything.
Yep. Super fun. Kind of switching gears, not to put you too much on the spot, but I wonder, look, you teach a lot of classes, you dig into biblical texts and you share thoughts. I wonder, is there any that you might share with my audience about maybe some text in Hebrew and maybe some thoughts from it?
Sure. We need not go too far, We start with Genesis. So really the first sentence of the Bible, not the first verse, really, I don't want to get too grammatical here, maybe, but we'll see if we can do it both in a way that will keep your audience engaged.
Yeah.
The first 3 verses of Genesis actually constitute kind of a big sentence, if you will, where the first 2 describe the beginning of creation and what was the situation at the beginning of creation. And the beginning of the creation account, or the creation description, or the first action of God, is really in verse 3, Genesis 1:3. Vayomer Elohim yehi or vayhi or. And a grammatical point that I make with my students is that in Hebrew, the imperative form, yehi, or the adjussive form, really, it's kind of a third person volitive form. It's a way to express the will of the speaker towards an action in the third person. So yehi or, let there be light. This is, commonly in the translation. And then the narrative form, the form by which you tell a story, the vayikol form, okay, are similar. They are basically identical except for the va at the beginning. So you've got yehi or, va yehi or, okay, and those are identical, and you cannot really translate it. And what I read into it is the perfect nature of the creation reflected by the grammar here. The fact that you can say with the same wording, the same words, yehi or and vayhi or, 2 different things: the instruction for the light to become, and the narrative description of the light actually becoming, and you use the same language, shows that there is no daylight. Okay, no daylight, the pun intended, nice. between God's instruction for the light to come and the coming of the light.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
I love that you're teaching on this. In fact, maybe it's been a year now, but I remember looking at this, and what makes it even cool, by the way, Vav kind of looks like just a vertical line.
Right. It looks like in the middle of a weight.
It does. Yeah, like how is it that yehi or, that phrase with just the divider line of Vav can be both what God wants to happen and what happens? That's beautiful. I think that's super cool, and something you can only see in Hebrew, because there's no way you can translate it.
I try to explain to my students, like saying be light and be light,
Yeah. So, I mean, look, even someone who's at a beginner level in Hebrew, right? If they just go to Genesis 1, chapter 1, verse 3, and just look at the letters, and you'll see the same letter patterns on both sides, and you see that Vav right there in the middle.
Right. Though the grammar here is beyond the basic.
Correct.
You have to understand what's adjustive form.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. So not beginner grammar, but at least at the beginning, if they hear your explanation, they can kind of see, wow, yeah, I do see.
Right. They can see, definitely.
Which, interestingly, by the way, even if someone can't see it just yet, this actually is probably a good segue for us talking about something new that you're doing this year. That's pretty cool. A great course. I wonder if we could talk about that, because there's some people.
Sure. Listen, my resolution for this year, the year 2022, is that I'm going to bring the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet to as many people that possible. Nice. This is why the course that I've made is called 220 for 22. Okay, why 220? Because every video in the course is 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, it is. In a second, I'll explain how you wouldn't believe how much information I could put into 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yep.
So actually, it's 23 videos. So because we have the shin and the sin. So we'll Hebrew has 22 letters, but 23 consonants. Okay. But 220 for 22. And I structured the videos in exactly the same structure for each letter. So I have a tutorial video of 10 minutes that explains what to expect when engaging each of these letters. And then each of the letters has its own 2 minutes and 20 seconds video that really covers about 15 different points about the letter. That is the form of the letter, the pronunciation of the letter, the etymology of the letter, the different types of the letter over time, ancient Hebrew, Paleo Hebrew, right? The regular cursive and later on cursive writing, the Rashi script, which is, by the way, Rashi didn't know that script it's called the Rashi script, but it's not related to him.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No. So what's the story behind that?
Okay,
script?
I'll tell you the story. When printing was invented, which is 500 years after Rashi, roughly, the printers had to find a font that would. Rashi was the most popular commentator of the Bible. Yeah. Okay, and he has its own more than 100 super commentators, more than 100 different commentaries on his commentary. Okay,
and he's about 1,000,
roughly, yeah. And he was the first one to systematically write a commentary for the whole Bible as well as the whole Talmud, almost the whole Talmud, which is also an amazing,
immense, project. Huge project. Yeah,
right. So when his commentary was so popular, it wasn't even a question that you print it. Actually, it was printed in Hebrew even before the Torah, because the Torah had many written, manuscripts. So they didn't need to print it as the need for printing it was not as grave as printing Rashi. Anyway, when they decided to print them together, they had to distinguish the font. So they took a font that was actually a cursive Ashkenazi font. Okay. And they, cursive Sephardic font, and they applied it to Rashi as a different font. It's not really a different script. Do you read Rashi script?
I've looked at it a few times.
But you see it. Listen,
it's
in
so
5
different.
minutes you'll read it. It's
not that hard. But
right,
why a few letters are so different, though? I guess I'm sure there's some story for
Sephardic. But the idea is that Rashi didn't write in that script. It was only a decision of printers to choose a different font from the biblical font to print Rashi in these letters that made it Rashi script.
Wow. Well, there you go. More history here with Netanel Barak giving us the real story.
Right. Good. Listen, it's so fun, to talk about these issues.
Yep.
Yeah.
So back to your course then, right? So you
back to the course. Yeah, it's fun. I try to make it as entertaining, as enriching as possible. It won't make you a Hebrew reader. It's really to give you a taste about the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and 220 for 22. And believe it or not, I decided to sell it for $2.20. Okay, the whole course. But that huge amount that one has to invest in the Hebrew alphabet, I promised anyone that would be the best investment they have ever made into Hebrew studies. Now I decided, because I knew you had birthday, and I wanted to give you a gift. So my gift would be that upon publishing this podcast, I will open it. I will provide you with a coupon code that you can, and all your listeners can get that course for free. The coupon code would be Hebrew Truth 2022,
Great.
That's the name. Yeah, that's the name of my project, Hebrew Truth 2022. And
Okay.
using that coupon code, you'll probably add that
I'll add
to the right.
Yeah, I'll add to the show notes.
Right, to the show notes.
Yeah.
And everybody could get it. I'll open it for a week for free to celebrate Matthew's birthday.
That's
so
great.
That's my gift to you.
Toda rabah. Thank you very much. By the way, he's not joking. He literally sent me a happy birthday message on my birthday on Facebook. And because of the time difference, you were the first person to send me a birthday message, because it was technically January 5th, the day before my birthday. Whenever you sent it, was like at night. And so you were the first one, and very generous of you. And I think my listeners will really value this. And look, they're already getting a feel for you. You're a engaging communicator. You know your Hebrew. This is, like, I got to tell you guys, this will be a really fun, excellent way to get the alphabet down. And maybe you can speak to this too. I know I can as well. The alphabet is a wonderful, obviously a necessary, but it's a wonderful place to start. Although, you can't become a reader because you need some more information, but still you already get access to resources you wouldn't have had before, where now you can start to work on pronunciation. Or let's say you're reading a book, or you're referencing a commentary where they talk, they're in English the whole time, but that they want to talk about a word. Instead of saying, oh my gosh, that looks like gibberish, what's that word? You can actually follow the commentary. Oh, that word. Yes, I see that word. And it's wonderful. You already start to feel, I know for me, when I learned the alphabet, I already start to feel like, oh, I'm getting a taste, I'm getting a feel for the language, and it encouraged me to go on and further. And
I'm definitely going to and working on a project that would take you from that point to becoming a reader. I think that whatever is available today is not the optimal, not the optimum, neither in academia or online. I think that it is not built for the regular Joe. Oftentimes, the way Hebrew is taught is going back to universities and conventions of students who come, and they are willing to dedicate like whatever time is needed to learn Hebrew. But the regular person who wants to read the Word of God in its original language doesn't necessarily have the same time as a student who is now without any real commitments. He's probably not married. He doesn't have kids yet. He doesn't have a real job like that, demanding sometimes as he would have later in life. So I think that audience, that part of the population, does not have the best answer for his desire, for the desire to read the Word of God in God's own words. Okay, and really, there are certain points that I try to bring to teaching Hebrew that are based not only on academic experience, which I have, but also on tradition. I think that much of the traditions, listen to this, try to think. All Hebrew was not a spoken language for about, let's say, I'll go easy on you, 1,600 years, maybe more, definitely more in most places, but let's say 1,600 years. Mm-hmm. During these 1,600 years, everybody, all the Jews in the diaspora who were, again, not native Hebrew speakers, they had to learn how to read Biblical Hebrew because they were reading the Torah and the rest of the Bible, and they were praying, and the prayer book is in Hebrew, and so everybody had to read Hebrew. So they had to have a system by which everybody, 100% of the population, of the Jewish population in the diaspora, of non-Hebrew speakers, were to be successful in becoming Hebrew readers.
Wow. Yep.
Have you ever thought about that?
I have never once thought about that. So we think when we're learning the alphabet, when we're learning Biblical Hebrew, we are joining in the tradition of at least 1,600 years of people
So
around the world.
I don't think we are in the current situation, because
Okay.
the way it is taught today goes back, in my opinion, to the, let's say, 1800s in Germany, rather than
Oh, I
right.
see. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that we have so many and so much insight that we can gather from that experience of Jews. 100% successful, 100% success rate of teaching all Jewish kids how to read and write, mainly read, in this case, Hebrew, in a way that would be, as I said, suitable for people of different backgrounds, different intellects, different time. And it was 100% successful. Everybody, literacy among Jews, literacy of Hebrew was, I don't want to say 100%, but it was something that everybody knew. And those insights from the way Hebrew was taught to non-native Hebrew speakers in the diaspora is not incorporated today into the academic studies. Think about it. You learned Hebrew, and you learned Biblical Hebrew, but none of what I'm saying now was incorporated into it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Yeah, no, you're bringing up a great point, because the problem with a lot of academic settings teaching languages is it's dry and can be boring and very heady, and you're not actually getting an engaging experience of this. Whereas you're talking about how you've had kids and regular people, learning Hebrew in the Jewish tradition.
Right.
Whereas
all non-native Hebrew speakers. It's critical, because the audience, your audience, are not native Hebrew speakers. So it's easy enough that I was born in Israel. All my friends, I speak Hebrew every day, all day, except when I'm teaching. Okay, Hebrew, and then I'm speaking English, which is a little bit paradoxical, but there you go. And all of that accumulated experience is really not there in the world of academia. This is why I'm working on a course that would incorporate that experience. And I could tell you how do I know how it was taught for 1,600 years? That would be maybe beyond the scope already. But it's amazing that we're missing on so much of the wisdom and the experience in the world, in the realm of teaching Hebrew to non-native Hebrew speakers.
You're getting me so excited. Like, I need this now. I'm ready. I'm ready. Where's your next course?
So I'll tell you. Okay, there are traditions, by the way, from quite recent. The situation of non-native Hebrew speakers learning how to read in Hebrew. First of all, it exists even today in very closed Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox communities. Some of those systems are preserved, because while some of these communities might be anti-Zionistic, they are very angry with the state of Israel. They're very, very, very conservative, and some of the systems that they use, they go back a few hundred years. But that's one thing. Secondly, we've got history of recent years, that is 100 years ago, is not that old, and it was still relevant, because modern Hebrew only became a native language recently, let's say about 110 years ago, with Eliezer ben Yehuda and his son being the first modern Hebrew native speaker. That's Itamar ben Avi, Itamar, the son of Eliezer ben Yehuda, who was the first modern Hebrew native speaker. But we also have amazing, you wouldn't believe, we have amazing evidence from the Cairo Geniza. Have you ever, I'm sure you've heard of the Cairo Geniza.
Yes.
So you want to tell your audience a little bit about what it is, or?
I got on a super nerdy binge about a year ago on the Cairo Geniza. I don't know if you happen to be familiar with Marina Rousseau by chance. She's a Princeton University, and she's done a lot of research in this area. But I guess Cairo Geniza is, now again, correct me on all the things I get wrong here, but basically there was a proper way that Jews would would dispose of Torah scrolls or anything that had God's name on it. It wouldn't just be burned or thrown in the trash. It would have have a specific place near it, like by a temple or a synagogue, or rather synagogue, where it would go. But there was one, and then eventually they'd get emptied out, maybe buried in mass in the ground. But there was one that just never got buried, and they just kept stuffing it. And then you have thousands upon thousands of manuscripts dating from, I think, about 500 CE. I can't remember the earliest, but pretty old stuff all the way through to, I don't know, it was like 1800 or something. So you have thousands of scrolls.
It is amazing.
And so we have information.
And luckily for us, they were more stringent. Maybe they didn't know that they actually kept their documents that were Hebrew, even if they were not holy. So we can learn about, regular walks of life, even from the Cairo Geniza. And believe it or not, in the Cairo Geniza, we can learn how they taught Hebrew. Okay, from some of the documents there, we can see how literacy was taught. And I am incorporating into that into the course that I'm building now, which would be different than what is provided today, the insights from all of those sources.
Very cool.
Obviously, I'm also incorporating the best academic knowledge, because the world of academia, provides us with amazing knowledge. It's not bad.
Right.
I love it.
You have a master's degree,
Right.
You've also gone through that.
I was doing my PhD when I decided that providing for my family and having kids is I had to leave that aside. Maybe one day I'll go back to it. I have like 50 pages that practically nobody can read about parallel translation, old, ancient translations of the Hebrew Bible with Greek and Syriac and what have you in it. Obviously, I had to take the Hebrew University. Makes you jump through very serious hoops, and I love it. I was in a special excellence program where you can take as many courses as you want. You still pay like 50% of a regular student rate, not 50% of what you're taking, but 50% of the 100%. So I took 1 year 225% of a correct. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh my goodness! You went all in,
and I paid only 50%. So not 50 for that, but really a flat rate 50. And that's advantage. Before the scholarship and stuff like that, dean's list and everything you can imagine. So they actually paid me to go to university.
Incredible. That's so wonderful. And what's great, now you're sharing your knowledge with people. And that's one of the goals of why I'm doing this podcast, is connecting people to other great minds of the Hebrew Bible and Hebrew language, where we can learn great ideas. And I got to tell you, everyone listening, if Hebrew language is something you want to incorporate in your life, the first step is learning the alphabet. And Netanel Barak is offering a wonderful resource for free. Now I'm going to have the coupon code in the show notes for people to be able to get for free. You said for a week right after I upload this, so jump on there. As we wrap up, I have a few rapid fire questions I just want to ask you real quick. And rapid fire stuff.
Go ahead. It's so fun, Go ahead.
I know we could do this forever. We could do this forever. This
I
is
think
wonderful.
We can.
I love it.
I don't know that the audience could,
Right. I know. That's where I have to somehow find a way to end this plane, although we could be here for hours talking about this stuff. So here's the first one. Other than Hebrew, what is your favorite language that you have studied or taught?
You're killing me with all of these favorites, playing favorites.
I know.
It's like with the kids, it's not good. So I had to go through a lot of, I don't know why, but I ended up learning Russian and German and obviously ancient languages, Greek and Semitic languages, Akkadian, Syriac, Aramaic, Arabic. Syriac is a dialect of Aramaic, and all of them are fascinating, and all of them cause me to understand my own language and to understand Biblical Hebrew better. not just because I can now read or sources that in that language, because they create a better understanding of languages in one's mind. But I still make funny mistakes. Yesterday I had a lecture, and I saw, and I was talking about the name Yohanan, okay, which is the origin for the English name John. And there were two gentlemen by that name in the class, in the webinar. And I said, oh, we have two Johns here. And then I reminded, I was at the American colloquial use of that word in the plural form. I said, oh, no, two gentlemen by the name John.
Oh, that's hilarious.
You can put it on your show, but that's a true story.
That's funny. That is really funny. My gosh. So if you had to say the one though, what would you say?
If I have to choose one.
Don't worry, you don't have to get this tattooed on you. This is all in pencil, we can change later. What was most fun?
Most fun? Russian. Because I got to learn it on the street. I volunteered teaching Hebrew in the Ukraine. And so I had a fully immersive experience of Russian. And I decided as soon as I landed in the Ukraine, I said to myself, now I'm seizing the opportunity. I speak Russian. I don't care how many mistakes I'm going to do. And this is my wholehearted recommendation for my students as well. Yeah. Use it, if you can. Yeah. If you're learning like a modern language, definitely try to immerse yourself, try to engage. Obviously, it creates fun situations, funny stories. I can tell you stories from here on, but it was fun. It was a very fun experience.
No, it's important for language learners. I've made a lot of mistakes as I've learned. It's just a part of it. And we just, hey, like Netanel, we need to smile like Netanel, laugh about it, and move on, Okay, yeah. Another one here is, if money, time, and COVID were not problems at all, where in the world would you want to travel to, and what would you do?
What I would do, I would travel every country. First of all, I could do it anyway because I teach online.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's not the money or time or COVID. It's family. If family was not an issue, I would go three months. I think every country. I would rent an apartment and stay for 3 months, learn the language, see the culture, move on to the next one.
How fun.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay, a few more. What's a hobby you have outside of biblical studies and languages that you enjoy?
I don't know if you know that, but I am a co-captain of the Mazkeret-Batyah American football team, the Silverbacks.
No way.
Yes way. Should I show you pictures?
Yeah, show me.
Yeah, let's see. I'll show you pictures. I'll show you, and I'm very proud of it. It's you should know that it's really not popular. It's not a very popular sport in Israel, but that's me
Oh, this makes sense. Your profile picture. I remember seeing that and thinking, wait, is Netanel Barak an American? Because I have not once heard of, American football in Israel. So this is fantastic. I'm a big football fan. NFL, the playoffs are obviously about to start. Unfortunately, my Cleveland Browns, they really tanked this year.
I actually sympathize the Browns as well, but the Browns are the Browns, so
you're right.
They always bring sadness to the pound, and to
yes,
the
they
people.
do.
Yeah.
So who's your NFL team then? Do you have an NFL team?
I don't want to sound cheesy, but I sympathize with the Browns because I have family in Cleveland.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I do. And also I appreciate the arate, the amazing ability of a gentleman at the age of 44 to run circles around everybody. Not run, he doesn't run a lot.
No, he doesn't.
So yeah. I follow him, especially, he had Julian Edelman next to him, and the Jewish connection goes there. And I actually met Julian Edelman because I used to be part of the Israeli national team. And they brought, Mr. Kraft is the main sponsor of the Israeli Football League. So he brought all the trophies to Israel, and with Julian Edelman, and once
Wow.
with Brady. So actually, so I got to meet Mr. Kraft, and I got to see all the Lombardi trophies and meet Julian Edelman.
That's incredible.
So I root for the Buccaneers because of Brady, but yeah.
Yeah, it's impressive what he's doing at 44. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well, very cool. Co-captain of the Mazkeret-Batyah Silverbacks.
That's a big surprise.
That's a great fun fact. I like it. What position do you play?
What do you think?
Quarterback?
Nah, I'm a center. You can see I'm not.
Oh my
I play
gosh.
O-line. I used to play a guard in the national team.
Yeah.
And I play center in the Mazkeret-Batyah Silverbacks.
Yeah.
And yeah, I used to be 320. I'm now 250. So
you're a big dude. You can push him around.
I used to be bigger, 320. Now 250. I have to keep me healthy as well, not just
Yeah. Okay. All right. Just a couple more. Once again, you're going to hate me for asking this question, but I have to ask the tough ones. It's fun. What is your favorite book of the Hebrew Bible? Just one. You get one favorite.
Just one. That's the beauty of life, is that you can choose so many games and choose how in each one, if you choose enough games, you're going to find the ones that you're very good at,
It's true. So once again, we live in an ideal world. You don't have to have favorites. You can have six kids.
I'll answer the question. You know that it's a Jewish tradition to answer a question with a question, but I won't do it now.
Okay.
I'll say Isaiah's language is amazing.
Yeah.
I love especially Isaiah 24. You can see all of these puns and word plays, and I love it. I love words. I love the language. I love Hebrew. I love post-biblical Hebrew poetry as well. I love Jewish ethnomusicology. I actually had an amazing professor who taught me a course by the name of Music in Judaism and Judaism in Music. So I love all of these things. And I'll take Isaiah because of the language and because of the word plays and the puns and everything.
It's a great choice. It's obviously it's a big book. And I mean, that's a book you could spend a lifetime just studying. I mean, each verse just packed and loaded, and it has some difficulty too. I think Isaiah and Job, if I remember right, that
the joke about words. Job, there are three books which are called the books of Emet.
Yes, the Emet.
Right. They constitute the acronym Iyov, Mishlei, and Tehillim. Aleph, Mem, and Tav. Truth, Emet in Hebrew, and that's part of my logo.
It is.
And the joke goes that in the book of Tehillim, Psalms, there is no connection between chapter and chapter. In the book of Mishlei, Proverbs, there is no connection between a verse and the following verse. And in the book of Job, you can't understand the connection between a word and the following word. So that's.
Oh my gosh, that is a great joke. That's wonderful. I'm going to steal that. I love it. That's good.
I have a joke for every situation.
I love it. All right. So the last thing is this. You've already talked about your course, which you're very generous and offering for free to those listening. But if someone wants to connect more with your teaching, your content, or they want to learn more from you, what's the best way for people to connect?
So I'm out there, I'm on a mission to bring Hebrew to as many people as possible. I've got my website, readingthehebrew.bible.com. That's reading the Hebrew Bible in one word.com. And I have a YouTube channel, and I have WhatsApp groups and Telegram groups and what have you. And you can send an email to info@readingthehebrew.bible.com, or just go onto the website. And all of these alleys, you'll meet me at the end of these.
Yes, they all point to Netanel. That's good.
Right, they do.
Great. I'll put links to all this in the show notes, and that way people can connect with you, your content, and your teaching.
Thank
Well,
you very much.
Netanel Barak,
Thank you for
this has
having me. It
been,
was super fun.
yes, this has been a blast. So thank you so much for coming on.